Hey guys, my name is Melanie. Welcome back to the channel. I'm super jazzed to be here as always. Today I'm going to be showing you some of our preparations for the 2021 growing season, including our seed germination station. It's a pretty long vlog, so we're gonna jump right into it. I'm super excited. Let's go. First things first, I started ordering seeds for the 2021 grow season back in January. There is obviously some supply and demand issues because of COVID, and the world has never seen an increase of first-time gardeners like it has now, which is a great thing, but it also means that there are shortages. Seed shortages are a very big issue, so I was really wanting to make sure that I only got what I needed, but that I was able to get all of the varieties I was looking for, especially because we live in a little bit of a northern climate and at a pretty high elevation. I'm looking for very specific varieties that are cold hardy and can handle a shorter growing season. So I really wanted to make sure I could get those specific varieties. I started in January. If you haven't gotten your seeds for this growing season yet, March is like coming up to the final time here. You're really cutting her close. I'll leave the links in the description below for the companies that I went with. All of the seeds I ended up purchasing are heritage or heirloom varieties. This was because I wanted to be able to save my seeds for years to come. I think it's important to try and close the supply and demand circle. I wanted the autonomy that it allowed me, and I want to be able to take that responsibility on myself to be more self-sufficient that way. It also takes the edge off of how much money I spent on my seed haul. I ended up spending around $120 just on seeds. That doesn't include the perennial bushes that we want to purchase this year. That doesn't include my potato order, and that also doesn't include our asparagus. So those are going to be separate. I haven't purchased those yet. I'm going to try to be getting those very local. So I'll keep you posted in another vlog on what that all looks like. But just on these seeds alone, I ended up spending around 120 Canadian dollars. We also still had copious amounts of seeds left over from my grandfather, and last year we did test these germination rates, and if any of them were still viable last year, a lot of them are not. We just didn't get around to throwing them out. We ended up saving a few of the seed packs so that we could make some art, and I'll show you in another vlog what Mom did with those because it was really, really cool. Once we had gone through all of our existing seeds as well as the seeds that I had just ordered, it was time to kind of lay out and figure out what we're going to be planting this year. Now, you don't need to get a whiteboard out and you don't need to do this the way we did, but I'm a very visual person. I like lists, and bless my mother's heart, she was willing to do this all just to pretty much humor me. Like I've mentioned in previous vlogs, I am not an experienced gardener. It started to get really confusing and really overwhelming trying to figure out when to start germinating these seeds inside before our last frost date. We ended up playing it a little safe and pushing the time that we'd be willing to harden things off in the greenhouse. We pushed the time that we would be willing to put things out in the ground just because we are at a higher elevation and our risk for frost or impromptu snows is pretty high. What we did was start with specific varieties or vegetables that were generally like each other, so tomatoes and peppers, for example. We clumped those together on the list. We separated the annuals and the perennials. We figured out all of the seeds that needed to be started 8 weeks prior to our last frost date, 6 weeks prior to our last frost date, when things could be direct sown, and if they are direct sowed, did we have a long enough season to grow them at all anyway? We also had to figure out how long we were going to have them inside and when we would be comfortable in moving them into our greenhouse so that we can harden them off before we put them into the ground. So it was a 3-step process, and I have not grown vegetables like this before, especially on this scale. So I was nervous, and I really appreciate my mother's help. She even wrote everything out on the whiteboard for me because I hate my writing. So shout out to my mom, Tammy, for really humoring me on this and holding my hand and walking me through the whole process, because I was really overwhelmed, and it really helped me kind of mentally prepare and plan out what this season was going to look like. If you're someone who needs a lot of visual clues and aids and just reminders, I highly recommend getting a big whiteboard or a really big piece of paper and just making those lists. It gets it all out of your head, and it makes it a lot easier just to understand what you're trying to do. I'm not going to walk you through the actual varieties that I chose. We do have a vlog coming out later on in March that will be all around planting, because we will be planting at that time. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and turn on your post notifications so that you can see what we choose to plant. And I'll go into a little bit of the specifics around the varieties, especially because we're a northern climate. So there are a few things that I put some extra thought into in that regard. Once we finally wrote down all of the plants that we wanted to be planting this season and their germination dates and when we were going to start them, etc., etc., we just alphabetically filed away our seeds. The amount of equipment that came with these lights was a little crazy. You got a power cord for each light. There's 6 in a pack, so you got 6 power cords, and then you've got these double-sided connectors. These are the same on each side, and it's the same on each side of the light as well, so you can't mess this up. It's very user-friendly. And you got these brackets to attach them to a frame or to a wall or to a roof. We're actually going to be building a frame to attach these onto so we can raise and lower them depending on the height and the growth of our plants. Now, for grow lights, there are a lot of resources on YouTube, very good detailed resources explaining exactly why and how you should be choosing what lights are best for you, etc., etc. For me, I chose these LED tubes. I'll link them below in the description. I got them off of Amazon because I couldn't find them locally. You're going to be wanting to pay attention to your Kelvins and your lumens. These two things control how much light your lights put off, as well as the type of light or the temperature of light emitted by your lights. Take a drink every time I say lights. I'll toss up on the screen here the range you're going to want to fall in for both of these. Other than that, I'm not going to be talking too much about the specifics of the lights. I also went on Amazon and ordered a ridiculously large germination mat. I chose this one. I'll link it below as well because it comes with a thermostat guy thingy. Let there be light. It works. I'm very excited that when I plugged in the lights, it all worked. I am by no means an electrician, and it was a little daunting to figure out all of the numbers and the attachments, and I was a bit out of my comfort zone, so I was really happy when I connected everything and it worked. And this happy dance is to celebrate. Happy dance. So as you guys saw last night, we opened up and unboxed the LEDs. Today the game plan is to head into town. My little timer that goes into the wall that will control when the lights turn on and off so that I don't have to remember to do that. Just came in the mail, so I have to go and pick that up. I also need to pick up a little bit of trim or wood, basically, to fashion some kind of frame to mount the lights on so I can hang them from the shelf. So we're gonna grab Ripley, get into the car, head to town, pick up the timer, and figure out what kind of wood we might need to make a mount for these lights. Something really weird about starting some light setups for spring starts when it is actively snowing. We just got about a half a foot last night. I had been hoping that February would, just be eager to ease us into spring, but looks like it's gonna be wintry. I ended up purchasing way more wood than I needed, but that's fine. We're making 2 different units, and each unit will have 3 lights on it. These lights do not weigh a lot at all, so I decided and felt very comfortable going with just a small trim. I wasn't concerned about the hardware being extremely load-bearing or whatever. I was very comfortable just choosing some casual hooks, some normal screws, adding some glue in there, and using a fairly small chain. Okay, we've got the 4 cross beams, which are 22 inches. One of them is a bit shorter than the others because I drew too many lines. Story of my life. And then we've got the long guys, which are 32 inches, 4 of those. We're making 2 of these if you have not caught on to that yet. In we go. Once the wood was cut to the proper sizes, again, I'll leave the dimensions on the screen for you, I pre-drilled some holes with a drill bit that was smaller than the screw I was using, which is very important, I learned. And then I just drilled 1 screw into each corner. When you're building things that are load-bearing, it's important to drill or screw in your hardware from the bottom up. So going the opposite way, the pressure of the load bearing down or gravity would be pulling. It decreases the chance of anything slipping, your screws or anything like that coming apart. I did it that way with this frame because it's just good practice, not because there's any real risk of these lights falling off, but I learned something new. It's important to go the opposite way of the weight of your load. The hooks I'm going to be using, like I said, am very confident that they will bear the weight of the lights. I think in total this whole unit is maybe 10 pounds, so having one of these on each corner hooked into chains around metal posts on this shelf is very sturdy and almost feels like overkill. I do wish I used pliers or something else other than my hand to screw these into the wood, or that I pre-drilled holes for the hooks themselves, but that's okay, next time I'll know better. I did use some Elmer glue when I screwed in these hooks so that they remained in the same position, making it easier to attach and unattach the chain later on. After that, I measured and cut the chain to equal lengths for each of the 8 corners. Good morning. It is the next day since I put together the frame for our indoor lighting setup. We ran into a little bit of a delay. One of the lights out of the package of 6 that I got in just stopped working. There's no damage to it externally. I just think it's one of the little connections on the inside. So I had to reach out to the company that I got them from. So we are looking at getting a replacement light sent to me. I don't know if the company is going to want me to return all of the lights that I got from them in order for them to send me a whole replacement package, or if they're going to be able to replace one light while we keep the other ones. Because I don't know how we're going to be doing this exchange, I haven't attached the lights to the frames yet. The frames are built and hanging up. I'll show you a clip. But as for actually attaching the lights, I haven't done that yet. They're still just kind of precariously, I guess, placed over one of the shelves on the unit we're building. So, oh my gosh, the snow pile goes up really high, and she's almost able to come to the top of the roof, which is normally so far off the ground. Anyway, in the meantime, while we wait to hear from the company I got the lights from, come out here and just do a really good seasonal tidy up. We've got old poly that we were using to cover the beds. We've got a bunch of planter pots that are in here for storage because the winter, if they get water in them and it freezes, it'll break them. So we have to move a lot of that stuff indoors. Right now, stuff is just kind of messy. I want to paint this interior white this spring before I'm needing to use the greenhouse. So best to start in February. So I have now officially finished cleaning out the greenhouse. I took all of the extra dirt that we have in there and put it in our garden shed so that when it is warm enough to paint, I can just go in there and do maybe half a day on just cleaning and dusting really well when I take all of the other pots out of there. Wash the windows, and then once I have the windows washed, everything's really well dusted, I'll paint the interior white. It's really hard to get all of the dirt out of there because we built the actual table that's in there. We assembled it inside of the greenhouse, and there's not room for maneuvering around its legs and stuff, so it's a hands and knees scrubbing endeavor, but I got as far as I can on that today, so I decided to get started on another project. We had a table inside of the greenhouse, just a freestanding table, and it's looking a little worse for wear. It has this green paint on it, as you can see, that is just completely flaking off. The table itself is still very, very sturdy. It's all real wood, so I'm just going to quickly brush off and sand off the excess paint, probably paint it an obnoxiously bright yellow, and put it back in the greenhouse. But I didn't want to have all of the soil and the pots stacked up on this table, knowing that I would just have to go in there in the springtime and redo all the paint on it. Plus, it is flaking all over the place, and I just don't want this paint just on the ground or in the greenhouse. It's definitely not good for the environment, so I'm going to try and capture it all here and contain the mess. Now, I know I said that I was probably going to paint this whole thing yellow, but as I was sanding, I realized it looked really cool. The white, the blue, and there was actually some type of pale blue and teal underneath this paint job on this table. So I decided to leave it very antique and rough because A, it saved me a lot of time and I didn't have to repaint it, and B, just trendy and pretty. Putting some varathane on top of this table that I sanded yesterday. You guys saw me do that. This is probably, day 3 of really intensively trying to get some projects done for springtime. I think I have mentioned in some of the other videos so far that I actually got called back to work, which really puts that kind of deadline into perspective. A lot of these projects I kind of thought I would have done well in advance, but such is the way of DIY projects. Once I'm done doing the varathane on this table, I'm going to varathane, or at least potentially just use like acrylic paint on these shelves for, I don't know, it's really sunny, you guys can see it. But, wait, where are we? There we go. So these guys are obviously just pressboard, so we need to seal them up. At first I was gonna varathane them, but Mother has informed me that I may as well just use acrylic paint because it's just plastic and seals it away from the water. So I'll probably just choose like a white or a black on those. Hi Ripley. Yeah, so we're just painting. The table was kind of a project that just came up when I was out there. Oh, buddy. Stay. Go lay down. Good boy. You stay there. The table kind of just popped up in the project. It wasn't planned. Yeah, so it was kind of a hot mess. Gave it a sand down. Now it's all cool and vintage. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna keep on varathaning, and I will show you guys a little bit of an after. Right now we are 1 coat deep. We might do 2 coats. Who knows? In the end, I am very happy that I decided to actually use acrylic paint as opposed to varathaning these shelves. They are pressboard and they start to chip really easily on the corners. So the acrylic plasticness of this paint was very useful to just help hold the whole thing together, as well as keep the water out. Because we missed our seedlings and we water seedlings, I just wanted to make sure that the integrity of the shelf wouldn't be slowly decreasing over time. Now that all of the shelves are painted, it is time to reassemble. So I put the shelves back in, and then we're on to attaching the lights to the frame. Finally, the grow shelf is complete. So where I got the lights from was Amazon, and unfortunately one of the lights stopped working like immediately. So on this lower shelf here hanging, we only have 2 lights, and on this guy up on the top here we have 3, which is fine because I can fit the trays horizontally this way and fit 72 plant starts up on the top. And we'll probably just grow like indoor greens or lettuce or something on the bottom because I don't need both setups anyway. And I knew that going into this, so it's not a huge deal, and they're going to refund me for a singular bulb, but still kind of annoying to go through all that work and not be able to have 2 sets of 3 lights each kind of thing, but whatever. So this process was super annoying. As you can see, these shelves are adjustable, and the lights that are hanging are also adjustable, but this shelving unit doesn't stay together unless these shelves are intact. So I had all the shelving actually taken out, as you saw, to be painted and sealed up. So this whole shelf was like extremely unstable until I got those back in like 5 minutes ago. But the angles of trying to get the lights and the actual shelves in there was a pain in the ass. That was not my finest moment. I didn't film it for very obvious reasons. Also, we've got these beans growing on the side because I explained to you that I started these guys to test out if they would germinate. Obviously they did, but I used up all of the seeds that I had in testing the germination. Anyway, they're growing. Sadie horse runner beans. We'll see. I'm gonna probably try to wrap them around these tomato cages a ridiculous amount, just in circles, and see how long I can postpone needing to upgrade their size, because they're already in bigger pots. They're next to the grow lights. I'm not going to put them on the shelves or figure out how to do that because it's just a waste of my time. I'm just trying to keep them alive long enough to be able to save more seeds off of them. We shall see though. But tonight, the indoor grow setup is complete. Booyah. All right, guys, that's it. This is it. It's done. We actually have some just baby greens growing right now. There's lettuces and arugula. And then we've got some pansies started up there as well. My beans are still alive and going strong. I think that is hilarious that I tried to germinate, test them, and then I planted all of the beans instead of just testing them, and now I have to keep them alive until I can save more beans from them. Not my smartest move, but I'm a beginner, so hopefully you'll learn from my mistakes. I know I didn't give much instruction on the actual building process because I feel like it's fairly self-explanatory. I made wooden squares and then attached lights to them and then hung them from chains. And I'm really happy with the result. I can adjust both the shelves and the lights, so depending on how fast our little guys grow, I will have lots of room to give them ample light and space to thrive before we move them outside. If you are someone who lives in a northern climate, being able to start seeds successfully indoors is a really important part about having your own food supply and to be able to have a full growth season. We do not have enough time in our season to plant tomatoes outside or even in the greenhouse and actually get fruit off of them. We have to start them 8 weeks prior to our last frost date, and there's still 3 feet of snow outside. This is a very exciting step. It's a big notch on the belt, I guess, in our homesteading journey, and I'm really proud because I'm the one who kind of headed this project up. Often I am helping mom with her projects where she's a lot more involved with measurements and stuff, and while I did have help from her and some guidance from her, I was the one who mostly did this myself. So it's exciting. I'm excited. I hope you guys found this helpful or enjoyable. Later on in the month of March, I'm going to be sharing 2 garden related videos. One of them is going to be my spring pagan plan with me. I know that is a mouthful, but it's all about how I track and how I'm going to be tracking our garden progress when I sow seeds, when seeds germinate. I'm also going to be sharing how I kind of keep track and tabs on foraging and wildcrafting. There are a lot of beautiful plants out there in the forest that we harvest and utilize, and I want to start tracking when they come into season, when I see that they're the most abundant and when it's the most sustainable to harvest. So I will be including all of that in my garden planning video that's going to be coming out shortly, as well as releasing another Tamtara vlog all about our planting day. So in that video, I'm going to actually be talking about the varieties we got, why we made certain decisions, why we aren't growing certain things, why we are growing other things. So there is a lot more gardening content to come. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your post notifications so you can stay up to date with all things Tamtara. If you have any questions, by all means comment below and I will do my best to answer them. Until next time, live long and prosper. Bye-bye.